Hey everyone, in this video we're going to talk about the product rule. The product rule is another one of the derivative rules that we learn early on that help us in following specific steps in taking the derivative of a function. The product rule incorporates a function that consists of two standalone functions, if you will. We'll see what that means a little bit more in depth in just a few minutes, but what I want to talk about is just the general rule for the product rule. What does it do when we take it? And so when I have two independent functions that are multiplying, that tells me instantly that it is a product rule. So what I'm going to do is to take the derivative of f. We follow this pattern of the derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. Once I follow that and once I begin to master that pattern, the product rule becomes extremely easy. Now, what makes the product rule difficult is you'll see later on in further calculus videos that you may have different rules within the product rule, such as having a chain rule or a quotient rule within the product rule. And that's the only thing that really kind of makes these problems a little bit tricky, but they're still fairly easy the more you practice and the more that you begin to master it. So just follow the rule, derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second, and you won't have any problems with this. So looking at this very first problem, I see that I have two standalone functions. G of x is going to serve as, my first, all right? So if you think back to our derivative rule, I can think of 3x squared as g of x, and I can think of sine of x as h of x, all right? And just so we don't get confused, we'll call this f of x again. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the derivative now of f, following that pattern that we saw just a second ago. So when I take the derivative of this, I want to take the derivative of the first. So the derivative of that first is going to be 3x squared. Well, that's just a power rule. So we're going to wind up with 6x times the second, so times sine of x, plus the first, so 3x squared, times the derivative of the second. Well, the derivative of sine of x is cosine of x. And that's it. All that we have left to do now is to just simplify. So when I simplify, we know that f prime of x, I can factor out a 3x from both of these terms. So I have 3x, and that leaves us with 2 times sine of x plus x times cosine of x. And that is our derivative. That is our product rule. All right, so let's look at one more that may be a little trickier, but still follows the same guidelines. All right, so here is my first standalone function. Here is my second standalone function. And we have two different functions coming together and multiplying. Thus, we know it's the product rule. So when I find h prime of x, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the derivative of the first. So the derivative of ln of x, this is a special case, is going to be 1 over x times cosine of x, plus the first, so ln of x, times the derivative of the second, which is derivative of cosine of x, is negative sine of x. All right? And so again, let's be good mathematicians. Let's clean that up. I know that the cosine of x technically is cosine of x over 1. And so we can say cosine of x over x plus the natural log of x times sine of x. And I'm going to put that negative right there in front of natural log of x. Just a little bit an easier way to stay organized and so forth. But that is it. That is our product rule. So hopefully you're starting to get those basics, memorizing the principal general formula, derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. So thanks for checking out the video. Continue looking on for more of the future derivative rules, and we'll